Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Engelbert. It's Dave Lawrence, Hawaii Public Radio.
Hello, Dave. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, brother. How you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, thank you.
You sound real good. We both got a couple of landlines happening. It's like the old days.
Right.
It's Hawaii Public Radio, all things considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are welcoming a legendary artist who has a rare concert date, August 25th, Hawaii Theater, and a special show, too. It's being filmed for a PBS special that will air during the Christmas season, according to the press release about it. It's the Man I Wanna Be 2018 tour. Latest album released last year. This gentleman has sold over 140 million records. He's not only a fascinating career, but an incredible personal story, too, and a huge honor and thrill to welcome the one and only Engelbert Humperdinck. Aloha and mahalo, Engelbert. Thank you for doing this.
Hello, Dave. How are you and all your listeners?
Great to have you on board. And when I was looking at the press release of this thing, it says the return to Hawaii. And forgive me, I scoured the internet looking for your previous experiences here. Couldn't see anything. Can you reflect on when you were last here?
I can't. You know what? It's been such a long time since I came back there, but I'm so looking forward to coming back and tread on your beautiful shores and once more and do this new film show that I'm going to film a show there, and which I've always wanted to do ever since I saw Elvis's special over there. And he was a good friend of mine, so I really wanted to not copy him, but to do a special there because it was such a wonderful show that I want to be able to leave that in my
legacy.
In my, whatever they call it.
Legacy, I would say.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, and that's a really cool thing. And we'll talk about Elvis coming up in a little bit because you're right, that's a remarkable connection that you've got. But back to the show, because as you pointed out, it's special even for an artist, and that's really cool that you appreciate it, especially a guy who's done as much TV and film work as you have. But when I think about doing a PBS TV special, very few get done here in the islands. If you can, and because it's going to be around the holidays, maybe explain what's in store for folks.
Well, the show I'm about to do has been trial and tested around the world, and I just don't stay in America. I mean, I am a world traveler, and I do get to see all these different countries, and it's very exciting. And the kind of songs I put in my show has been trial and tested with every audience, and they seem to want the standards that I have recorded in the past, the ones that I have chosen, and so I keep it in my show, and I hope that when I film it, it's going to be good for public viewing.
So it's not going to be holiday themed at all because it's going to air around the Christmas holidays. It's just
you know what? I'm going to be recording. I'm going to be doing a couple of Christmas songs because I have just finished not like last week, finished a new Christmas album, and I haven't done a Christmas album in 45 years, and now I finished this new Christmas album, which is I'm really, really happy with. I really am happy with it. And to go along with my brand new album that I've got out right now, The Man I Want to Be.
It's going to be cool for folks, huh? A little Christmas in August kind of flavor, Engelbert. I like that.
Yeah. Well, you have to do these things in order to make things happen around Christmas time that people wanted that.
Bro, I totally know. I've had Herb Alpert on many times, and he's laughed about going into the Capitol Studios to record Christmas songs in August or July himself. So I know, I know what you mean. And you were talking about the record and the Man I Want to Be. Again, we're talking to Engelbert Humperdinck, legendary entertainer, who's been kind enough to join us on All Things Considered today. You recently covered Hawaii artist Bruno Mars. So talk about that, and will he join you at the show?
I tell you what, it's so wonderful because I was in Hawaii many years ago, and when my fan club threw an end-of-the-year party for me, and my fans came from all over the world, and the entertainment that night was a little 5-year-old boy in an Elvis suit called Bruno Mars, and now I'm singing one of his songs, which is absolutely, Just the Way You Are, which is one of a great song, and we've given it a new treatment. And I certainly hope that, the treatment I've given it, he approves of it because it is different to his.
That is an amazing story, though. How old was he when he did this?
5. And he's on. You can get him online doing. Engelbert and
Yeah.
Yeah, he's online. You can see him in his little white suit, and he's so good. And I said to him then, I said, young man, you're going to be a big star. But he's not big. He's major. He's like a mega star. And I love his talent. I think he's an absolute genius.
Wonder if he'll show up at the thing. Any word on if he's going to even be in town?
Pardon me?
I wonder if he'll show up at your event.
I hope so.
That would be great.
Does, because I'd love to, pay tribute to him and sing his song in the best way I possibly can.
I'm sure he would love it. And when we were talking about that, just to think about him at 5 and that early, what you're talking about is you're shining a light on the fact that this guy had this stuff going on really early. He's honed it. He's made it into something, as you said, he's a monster star today. And your own history, fascinating. You're one of 10 siblings. So thinking about Bruno, thinking about that early development you were highlighting, you were raised in India until 10. Had you discovered music yet? And share some of the background on first developing a passion for it.
Well, I first developed a passion for it when I was about 5, actually. Because my family my mother was very musical. She played violin and she had an operatic voice, and she could make the chandeliers shake when she was hitting high notes, and I guess that's where I got my power from, in my voice. And I loved music, but I didn't want to be a singer. I wanted to be a musician, so I started playing saxophone when I was 11 years old. But that soon came to an end at 17 when I sang in a club. And people loved what I did, so down went the sax and out came the voice.
And you were already deep in music before ending up in the military. Explain to Americans, was that national service thing, were you drafted? Is it sort of a requirement?
You get drafted, yeah. You get called up for national service, and in England, and I got called up when I was 18 years old. And I was shipped to Germany, and believe it or not, at the same time I was there, Elvis was there, but I didn't know him. I had no idea that later on in my life that I would befriend this giant star, and it was just incredible because I used to play his songs on the jukeboxes, and later on we became good friends, and he started recording some of my songs, and I recorded his songs, and it was just great. He was a great guy. I loved him very much.
And we'll highlight that relationship in just one moment. I was just curious about the Gordon Mills, the suggestion of a stage name. So all of this stuff going up to the national service, you were using the Jerry Dorsey name, and then this guy, if you can, that is a critical development, huh? His suggestion. Because sometimes a brand name can make all the difference. Yeah,
I know, but I tried with my own name. I tried seriously tried, but nothing happened. So Gordon Mills came up with this brainwave, and he changed. He had a stable going. He had Tom Jones, he had Gilbert O'Sullivan, and myself. Those three major names in the business he owned. But he gave me the name of Engelbert Humperdinck. He gave Tom Jones his name. He gave Gilbert his name. So he named us all with different names, But mine was the longest. And I want to tell you something. People had so much fun trying to pronounce it, and people like Dean Martin, who never called me Engelbert or Ange or whatever. He always called me Humpy Bumpy Lumpy Dumpy, and it was quite fun, actually.
When you say names like that, Dean Martin makes me think of back in the late 60s. You in 67, I guess it is, Release Me comes out. It rises on multiple charts, and within 2 years, you had your first TV series and some really huge guests on it. I'm just going to name a couple so people get an idea if they're driving and they're wondering who are some of those guests. Tony Bennett was one, Jack Benny, Milton Berle, Ray Charles, Dionne Warwick, who was just in town. Talk a little bit about the show. How did it come to be, and maybe some fun memories?
Well, actually, the guy that was that sponsored my show he was the president of Fabergé, and Fabergé sponsored the show, and that happened to be Cary Grant.
Wow.
And Cary Grant came over and he watched my special, and and he just loved it. And and then after that, after he saw the special and the series was released on TV, he used to come and see my show in Vegas and bring his daughter around and to show his little young daughter at the time. And he followed me around to a lot of places, because he liked my style of singing, and he was just a wonderful man, And what a great guy to have on your team.
Unbelievable. And that's a huge bit of background. And when it came to these guests, like when Tony Bennett was on, for example, did he perform solo? You guys play together? Paint the picture of what happened.
Oh no, he performed on his own. I don't believe I did a duet with him, but we've been friends for all these years, since I met him, and he's just a wonderful person and always will be, and a great chapter in my life.
Was that the first time you met him?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but I met him after that as well. When I came to America, I remember staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he was in the next bungalow, to me, and it was just it was unbelievable. I think he was having something done to his house, so he was staying in the bungalow.
Right.
And I got to get in there and befriend him, and he was a wonderful guy.
And when you had people like Ray Charles on your show, I mean, was it exciting, or were you by that point, were you just, your celebrity status had already, I mean, sometimes it's hard to keep stuff in check.
I was totally over I didn't know whether I could handle people of that caliber on my show because, he was a giant star, and
right.
and I was a big fan of his music, but he was so good with me. He was brilliant. I never saw an artist like him perform because he did an arrangement in the studio, a head arrangement for me right there and then in the studio, and he was telling the musicians what to put down, and he did that right there and then. He's just a classic man who had great knowledge of music, and with his being blind, it was nothing to him. His talent overpowered all that.
That's a great way of describing it. His talent overpowered all of that. It's Engelbert Humperdinck we're talking to on All Things Considered, my very special guest. And really, when you think about, you talk about that giant, the way you describe him, it's very humble sounding. And we've mentioned his name a few times. And in fact, this wonderful show that he is doing, August 25th, Hawaii Theater, in some ways inspired by the fact that his colleague, a hero, a friend of his, Elvis Presley, did his own show, Aloha from Hawaii, back in the early 70s. So we've talked about Elvis Presley a few times, but now let's really dial in on this. When did you first meet him, and talk about developing what became a very important friendship?
Yeah, well, my first meeting was the fact that he came to my show in Las Vegas in 1973, I believe it was. 1973 was the first time I ever met him. And he came and he was wearing a cloak, and when I introduced him in the audience, he stood up on a table and he spread his cape like Batman, and the audience went absolutely berserk. For about 10 minutes, I could not quieten that audience down. So finally I said, Elvis, this is my show, man. And then afterwards, I went backstage, and we got to know each other and talk. But I want to tell you something. Normally when people meet each other for the very first time, you normally just shake hands. Well, this man embraced me, and I was shy, but he put his arms around me and embraced me. And he said, "Good to meet you, Engelbert." And I was so impressed. And then from then on, I went to see his show, and then he come see my show again. I saw his show about 3 or 4 times, and we would go and talk a lot. But Elvis, in one of his major books that he has released, the author went around asking questions. So he went to one of his bodyguards, and he said to him, "Who did Elvis like in the musical world?" He said, "Well, one of his great likenesses was Engelbert Humperdinck because, and I don't know why, but he said, he reminds me of the brother I lost at birth."
Wow.
So I thought that was quite a compliment he paid me. Although he's talking about his dead brother, he's talking about me as if I was a relation of his.
Right. No, I get it. And that's a really nice thing. And
yeah.
you had, I mean, it's amazing that you would have your careers mingled the way that they did. Did you ever get on stage together and play, or?
No, we never did. No, never did. Oh gosh, wouldn't that be?
Yeah.
Well, that would have been his gone down in history. Mind you, I have been with people of a great caliber like that, and we've been together on stage with his name, the guitar player, Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, talk about that.
Yeah, Jimmy came to Europe to make a name for himself, so they put him on a bill with the people who are well known in Europe. So they put him on my show, and he was the opening act on the show, the first half, and it's a strange combination, Jimi Hendrix and myself. But one day my guitarist didn't show up. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, Jimmy. He said, don't worry, man, I'll play for you. And I had Jimi Hendrix play guitar for me for the whole show. How about that?
That is incredible. And how much prep did he need for the songs? How did you get through like songs he didn't know? What was the way that...
He just read the music. He had the music backstage, and he was following. It was like hearing three guitars instead of one. That's how brilliant he was, It was amazing sound, and of course we became, for the short time that he lived, we were friends, and it's a shame that that great talent is not around anymore.
It is, and that's one of the things that we have to celebrate, that we have you, and our time on this earth is so precious. Our health is so invaluable. There's so many things we don't realize are so important that we can very, very easily take for granted.
You know what I really regret, Dave, is the fact that show was not recorded, or anybody had their cameras like they do today and took pictures, or and listened to sounds or whatever, But it wasn't recorded, so it's such a shame, because he became such a mega star, right. But there you go.
I know what you mean. Well, the weird thing about him, now that you mention it, is for a guy whose recorded career only lasted a short period of years, he was like almost in a session or getting recorded almost every day. There's just such a volume of his material that's out there. When we talk about recording with incredible people, Engelbert Calling I look at as a sort of project like that. But in the modern era, what sometimes happens because of technology is people can record their stuff separate. It isn't maybe as magical as fans would like it to be, everyone gathered around a mic or even in the studio at the same time. I'm just curious how it went with that, with people like Elton, Willie, Cliff Richard.
Oh, yeah, well, I didn't get to be in the studio with all of them, but I did get to be in the studio with Elton and with Gene Simmons
from Kiss.
Oh my God! Can you imagine Gene Simmons from Kiss with Engelbert Humperdinck? He was fantastic.
Well, you know what? When you were talking about Elvis with the cape and like a big bat, I was seeing Gene in my head.
Well, Gene was incredible. He really was, and such a great guy. I mean, he made me feel so comfortable in the studio. He said, "Just feel like you're having a party, pal," and that's how he recorded his song with me, and it was just great. And of course, Elton, I've adored for many years. I think he's one of the greatest talents the world has ever known, and he was magnificent in the studio. We didn't record. We didn't start recording for a couple of hours. We sat there and talked and brought up old times and things like that. And I can remember when I was first beginning in the business, and there's a place in England called Tin Pan Alley. And everybody used to go there for coffee, all the starving musicians who were trying to make it in the business. And Elton was there. He was one of them. And so was I, as Jerry.
Sure.
And I knew him then, and it's great to know him now in his great career.
He wasn't Reginald at the time, was he?
He was what?
Was he using his real Reginald?
He was Elton.
Okay,
yeah.
He was already Elton. Okay. That's cool. You've had some, incredible crossroads with these cats, and that's cool to come full circle with a dude like him, and especially considering the longevity and how many paths you must have crossed along the way. You've given back a lot through the years, leukemia research, Red Cross, American Lung Association, AIDS nonprofits. Are there current philanthropic efforts you want to give exposure to?
Well, you know what? I'm I think that people like myself have the ability to bring public awareness to certain situations, and that's what I want to do. And of course, my latest charity is Alzheimer's because of the state that
your wife.
Yes, it is. My wife has it, and so I'm into it, and I'm trying my best to raise awareness about this and money to help find the solution, a serious cure for it. It's a horrible disease, and I hope we can find something soon.
Yeah, I hear you big time. I lost my mom to MS 5 years ago, and ever since then I do a segment every Friday on my show called Helping Hand, where I try to give exposure to nonprofits or organizations that help people with various disabilities. Alzheimer's Association is one I constantly have on. Steve Tam, local guy from that. I'm close.
It's a tragic disease. It really is. But we hope, and I'm still. I never give up. I'm still striving to find that cure for her, and I know I will. And if I have to call the big man himself.
That's who we always have to lean on, and just getting it out there is an important thing to do, and I applaud you for it. With a career like yours, I'm always curious. A guy who's done the TV. I mean, you've been on The Love Boat, you're on Fantasy Island.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to think of some of the things that you've accomplished. Your own TV series, not once, a couple times.
Yeah.
Performing with all these different cats, recording with them. Some of them really remarkable dudes like Elvis, and then you have so much respect for up and coming cats like Bruno Mars. It makes me think, what's next for you when you look into, I mean, I know the Christmas thing is coming up next. I know the special that we're doing here that you're taping, but what else is on your radar is maybe something.
You know what I think, Dave, what I'm doing right now is where I want to be, because I do about 80 concerts a year around the world, and I'm very content doing that, and I think as long as I keep social media going and let the fans know that I'm still around and I'm still doing what I do, and try to give it the best shot wherever I go, that's all I want to do. That's all I want to be. I mean, making records, doing some television now and again, and traveling the world and meeting the fans in person.
It's a fantastic thing. We're so looking forward to you coming to town. It's going to be wonderful. Engelbert Humperdinck, August 25th, the Hawaii Theater, a special to be taping as well for PBS. It'll air on TV in the fall, right around Christmas, and really special to have you on. Are you a fan at all of public radio? I'm assuming you must be.
Yes, I do. Yes, as a matter of fact, what did you say, public radio?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Being a Brit, I also, the BBC celebrated BBC 1 and 2, their 50th anniversary, and I went to it. It was only, I think, a few days ago, and it was my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And it was their 50th anniversary, so little did I know that when I visited that place, that they would celebrate my birthday with me, because they brought out a cake and they did all kinds of things, and they gave a wonderful speech, about my career and I thanked them for way 1 and 2, BBC 1 and 2 have supported me over the years, and it was just a wonderful day, a great day to celebrate.
I love it.
Wonderful BBC 1 and 2 radio.
Great connection for you. Well, I had a lot of fun. I hope this was okay. I hope they kept you thinking and entertained, because it was a lot of fun for me, brother.
Thank you, Dave. That's very nice of you. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate talking with you. Aloha, Engelbert Humperdinck here. Yes, that Engelbert Humperdinck. I don't care where I am in the world, I do not miss this show. It might be 3 a.m., I don't care. I'm tuned in to All Things Considered with my friend Dave Lawrence. So please make a pledge now and support Hawaii Public Radio.
You're the man, Engelbert. Giving you a hug, a high five. If you want to do anything when you're in town, I'd have you by the studio. I'll come by the venue, record something, a hotel, whatever. But I just really appreciate it. You're a good sport. And
come by and say hello, will you please?
I would definitely. Be my great pleasure. And travel safe, be safe. And no, I really love the stories. You told some great stuff. And
thank you very much. God bless.
God bless you. Aloha.